Hey all, here are OS Reviews. Today we're taking a closer look at two smart presentation pens from TIBURN. The larger package here is called the AC03, and it's a slightly more interesting feature-rich model, including support for magnification as well as spotlighting certain regions of the screen when you're giving a presentation. It even has a built-in microphone that you can use for voice memos, as well as acts as an air mouse, so as you wave it in the air, those gestures are supported and moves the cursor on the display. Even has a stylus tip as well, but that functionality is a bit more limited and will only work with infrared touchscreen projectors. So it's not going to be compatible with every single display, but still is an extra feature in there if it happens to apply to the equipment that you're using, including a virtual marker that can appear on screen as you are hovering the air mouse. And then that's a snippet of what that companion app looks like that can allow you to change and activate different functions. Claims that will work up to a range of 100 feet. Although they also have a smaller version here, which is a little cheaper, under $20. It doesn't have nearly as many cool features, but it's more of a traditional presentation tool that does still retain the air mouse function. It doesn't have the additional call-out, magnification, and microphone features that the other variant has. This model, though, does have a physical laser beam instead of a virtual one, with an estimated connectivity range of around 50 feet for the mouse, which is about half of what we saw on the larger AC03. One benefit of this model is because it doesn't have that app that you need to install, it's going to work with a wider range, potentially, of platforms, including Android and Linux as well. The packaging with the larger AC03, what you'll get is obviously the presentation pen itself, USB Type-C cable for charging the pen, and just a quick user guide for that particular device. Finally, on the smaller guy here, the TK701, we have on the inside just the pen itself, along with a micro USB cable for charging, so it is using a slightly older standard. But in this case, we do also have a soft carrying pouch, which is a nice little extra. Alright, so let's take a closer look at the design, beginning with the AC03, the more expensive version. It does remind me a lot of something like a professional Wacom stylus, in the sense that the entire body here is constructed out of aluminum alloy shell, so it feels actually quite cold and reassuring to the touch. The pen tip portion, though, is made out of a polycarbonate plastic, and also the top portion here for charging. But the part that you're touching with your hands feels very solid. We do have an LED status light there that will glow to tell you kind of the status of power. It turns blue, for example, when it's turned on and starting to pair with your device. It turns red when it's charging, and also some of the keys here which are used for presenting up and down the different slides, as well as used for magnification and skipping through the different modes can all be activated here. The keys are pretty tactile and responsive. They're easy to click, made out of rubber, and we also have a microphone key on the very top there which activates this small mic. Very top here just has the Type-C port for charging, and also the adapter is integrated here. So again, it's not using Bluetooth, but rather using this USB-based connection. So you have to remove this little adapter, and by default, again, it's using USB Type-C. But if your laptop, let's say, doesn't have a Type-C data input, that's why they give you this little accessory that can convert that to a full-size Type 8, and then just plug this into your computer or desktop, and you're ready to go. And it doesn't roll around on the surface either because of this boxy shape of the pen, but still feels pretty comfortable as you're holding it. Taking just a quick look at the cheaper model of the two, it definitely feels a little more flimsy because it is lower cost. The entire body now is made out of just polycarbonate plastic. However, it does have a clip which you can attach onto, let's say, a pocket, and additional features which I appreciate include a dedicated power on and off switch next to the micro USB charging port. And when you flick it on, you can also activate certain features like the aforementioned laser beam, which is a physical one on here. This one, it's completely digital, so there is no actual beam coming outwards. And there are dedicated volume keys located on the edge here for this that works quite well. And also the nano receiver is located on the very top, which in this case is just giving us a full-size Type A port. So there is no kind of conversion between Type C and Type A that is included out of the box for the cheaper 701. Overall, though, both are pretty standard sized, similar to actually most regular pens, and easy enough to just kind of take with you if you are traveling with. The companion app, by the way, is available from their website, and after you download it, plug in the receiver onto the computer's USB port, you're pretty much ready to go. See the cursor just pop on there on screen, you can wave your hand around, and it is pretty sensitive as far as the air mouse mode is concerned, almost like a magic wand. Everything works, and it's actually pretty precise in terms of getting it to move up, down, left, and right with your movements, no real issues there. So it acts just like any other mouse. You can even press there to highlight and select different things on screen. The up-down controls have also been activated, so I can press also up and down, as you can see there, to move along the different icons even from this main home screen, and that works just fine. So it does the same thing when you're in a slideshow, going back and previous in terms of their pages. One difference though is, of course, compared to a Air mouse that you would use for, let's say, an Android TV box, is there is no left and right controls. So maybe that's one thing they can potentially add to make it even more versatile. It's just up and down. So that is one thing to keep in mind for the D-pad at least. But again, the mouse portion you can control pretty much in any direction. One thing I am noticing though is, like most presentation mouse and remotes, it does not come with a backlit keys. So in complete darkness, if the lights are dimmed and you have only the projector screen on, it can be a little hard to initially make out, but you get used to the layout of the keys, then you should still be fine. But again, maybe having some type of backlight for the buttons could be also nice to consider. So here's the optional companion app, which tells us the battery percentage remaining. We can also access the user manual, see if there's any software updates, as well as even change things like the sensitivity of the mouse, whether we want to make it faster or slower in terms of our actions and motions. That can also be controlled, which is pretty neat. And we can also select the virtual laser color. So right now it's set to red, but I can also change that beam to, let's say, purple or any other color from the rainbow. Right now what you'll see is I'm using it in the pen tip forward to operate the cursor, meaning that I'm trying to use the air gestures in this mode, but you can also flip the orientation if you prefer holding it in the other way like this, and now the mouse will work in this direction instead. So it's up to personal preference, as well as even change the background opacity, so you can make it more transparent or kind of darker and only show this one region that you're trying to call out as part of the spotlight. Essentially all we have to do is press on this key here, sandwiched between the up key and the microphone, to go through the different modes. So for example, if I press on this key once now, it's going to activate the laser beam, as you can see there, so that's going to only show up on screen, and I can highlight and call things out, move along with the cursor. Actual laser beam, it would look like this. So one downside, I guess, of a physical laser beam is, of course, if your display is super bright, it may be a little harder to see, versus on here with a kind of virtual one, of course, it can be a little bit more apparent, but it does depend on the source that you're pointing it at. If your projector screen is relatively dim, then the laser beam, which is physical, is going to be easier to see compared to this, which might be a little bit tougher to see. So there's pros and cons to both, just depending on the environment that you're in. If you tap on this again to go into the next mode, which is going to be the drawing mode. So under this particular mode, we can use the air mouse to basically sketch out notes there in the air. So I can say something like hello. We can switch into the next mode, which is going to be the spotlight. It draws attention to a certain region, looks very professional, and it's compatible with any app because it's just installed on the software layer of the OS. So regardless if you're on just the main home screen in a slideshow, using Google Docs, using Office, it all is going to work and looks quite good in terms of the effect. Otherwise, if we tap on this again once more, this will now go into the magnification mode. So if I long press now, it will magnify whatever is displayed. So let's say you have smaller text details which are hard to make out, smaller links, things like that. You can draw attention once again using the magnification. Now a few additional details. This virtual laser beam, its size can also be controlled if you're pressing down on it combined with the up and down arrow keys. So you can actually make this virtual laser beam as large as this, which is pretty ridiculous, but there is some opacity, so at least you can see what's on the other side. But you can actually make this smaller and larger depending on how obvious you want this laser pointer to be. And then similarly, if we're in the other modes, including the writing, I'm also able to go and change the color of the pen just by tapping on the up and down arrow keys. So I can use instead, let's say, a yellow line to draw something, or a green line instead. So it doesn't have to be stuck on red. All of this can be also controlled, and you get pretty much all the colors of the rainbow there to just annotate and tap along there to control things. So even the kind of spotlight mode, you can make it larger and smaller. Same applies to the magnification. We can also enlarge the region, but the actual magnification amount is going to be remaining consistent. A demo of what it would look like if you're giving a slideshow, and we can again use the virtual controls here to pretty much toggle everything we would need, cycling back and forth, professional effect as you're giving your presentations, all working quite well, especially for smaller text details that might have been otherwise harder for others to follow as you're giving your speech or presentation. Versus the other model, which again pretty much works in exactly the same way. Overall kind of level of sensitivity I think works equally as well in terms of the gesture controls, but you just don't get as many of those fun effects, including magnification, spotlighting, highlighting. Those things are all missing. So we only have just the core features in terms of navigation, and if that is all you're looking for and just calling things out with a physical laser beam, then that is what this other model will deliver. Alright, so that's more or less it as far as our hands-on review of these two smart presentation pens from TIBURN. They really specialize in these presentation tools, competing with other brands like Logitech, but these are going to be a little bit more affordable. And out of the two, again, I do think the more expensive version is more fun, more versatile to play around with, but obviously that depends again on the use case. So you can check out more details if you're interested in the links below. For now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews.